Welcome back to Cottage Designs by Erin, where today we are going to talk about how to cross stitch on a budget. I have been cross stitching since the early 90s. My daughter was born in 93, and so I started cross stitching about that time. And the reason I chose this as a hobby is because at that point in time, this was the cheapest hobby you could have. The patterns were under $5, the threads were under $1, the fabrics were plentiful. You could go to Walmart and buy linen and Aida cloth, and so it was very inexpensive to start. 20 years later, or really, I'm sorry, 30 years later, I've picked it back up, and patterns are expensive. It's nothing to pay $15 for a pattern and then have it shipped and pay another $6. Threads are outrageous. So linen is out of control. So I'm going to talk to you today about how I stitch on a budget and offer you some sound advice. The first thing I would tell you is to look for going out of business sales. We have a Walmart that is about an hour from us that is closing out their sewing center. So they're going to do away with most of what is there unless it's pre-folds of like Waverly fabric. Other than that, they're getting rid of everything. That is an opportune time to go buy when you know a store is going out of business. So let me reach down and grab something. Okay, this is an old tote I have. You can tell by the green lid, it's from the 90s. And this is all a big, enormous stack of linen. And I purchased this from a cross stitch shop that was going out of business in the 90s. She had Walmart bags full of linen for $1 a bag. And so as you can imagine, I scarfed that up as fast as I could. There are some huge pieces. This is an enormous piece of Belfast linen. This would probably, the yardage here, it probably cost you $60 to buy this. Okay, and I got it for $1 a bag full. I also have some very unusual Aidas in here, but mostly it is linen. The sad part is it's not labeled, so I don't even know really most of it. I don't know what kind I have, but I do have a plethora of colors, which is nice. So that's one example of buying from a shop that's going out of business. Next, I would suggest that you look for items on the secondary market. I ran into a situation last weekend. I started a Blackburn design and I needed 3 floss colors that I did not have at home. So I hurry and put my sweatpants on with my house shoes and I run to Walmart looking like a homeless person. And it was late at night. They're getting ready to close. They close at like 11. I was trying to find these 3 colors that I needed. I don't know if you've looked at Walmart floss lately, but it's very, very limited. They don't have a lot to pick from. And I did not find what I wanted. So rather than stress out about it, I'm like, it's fine. I'll just go to Hobby Lobby online and buy it. If you buy it at Hobby Lobby in the store here, it's 53 cents and I have to drive an hour to get it. If I buy it online, it's $1.10 and you have to pay to have it shipped. So then next I went to Joann's and Joann's had it, I think also for 53 cents. I'm like, I don't want to have to get online and pay all this money every time I need a color, because a lot of my charts have 25, 30 colors. It's going to run into quite a bit of money. So I started looking on eBay. What can I do to buy floss inexpensively? And I found the ticket. I bought this enormous tackle box by Plano of cross stitch floss. And the lady that had it was up in age. She's got shaky hands. She could no longer see, and she was selling what she had. I was able to buy all this floss. It was 24 cents each. Okay, and then of course I had to pay to ship it. But here's the miraculous part. This lady was very, very meticulous. Let me open up and show you. She bought not those little flimsy cardboard floss savers, but these are all plastic. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to dump anything. She has them all ordered. They are in numerical order. They are perfectly wound. I mean, this is amazing. And it's double-sided. So she also has in here rings for your floss drops. All right, let's look at the other side. So this came in the mail this week. I was so tickled. Guess what? I opened it up, went to the numbers I needed. They were right where they're supposed to be. And now I should have everything from this point forward. So now let me look on the other side. And there's even room in here for more. So I can still put specialty flosses in here. So this goes from $9.75 to almost $4,000. Okay. It's $3,700 something. So here's all this. All right. I like that it's in this big tackle box, but more than the tackle box, I like the fact that it's all numerical and in order. So whenever I pull a pattern, I just have to go through and pull out what I need. When I'm done with it, I need to put it back. And that'll prevent me also from buying the same colors over and over again. Because it's very easy to get online and say, well, I'll just go ahead and buy everything I need for this pattern. And then a month later, well, I'll just go ahead and buy everything I need for this pattern. But if you don't have it organized, you're going to spend entirely too much money. So secondary market, buy in bulk. That was one of my tips. Speaking of that. Okay, so I got on eBay and I did a search for cross-stitch fabric lot, L-O-T. And I ended up buying 80 tubes of Charles Craft Aida cloth and linen for $100, which means that each tube was $1.25 each. All right, you couldn't buy it for $1.25 even 30 years ago. Okay, so that's a heck of a deal. So now let me show you this. When it arrived, I divided it all up into 2 totes, one for Aida and one for linen, and I put everything in here. And then when my friend, my coworker Vicki and I, when we go out thrifting, if I buy a package like this of Lugana, I can throw it in the appropriate box and know what I have. So also, well, I'll get to that. Let me just keep going here. So I would suggest buying things in box lots. Buy out of season. Let me show you that. Hobby Lobby had last year's frames on sale. Okay. I really like this one. I like the ornate gold. I love anything black. This frame originally sold for $30. I got it for $8.50. This is just waiting for a piece of cross stitch. I also bought this little frame. This was not on sale. I bought it for $8.99, and I've got a cross stitch design that will go right in the middle of this perfectly. And this is where they have all the ready-made frames at. So I would always look for deep discounts and buy out. This frame was considered out of season, which is why I got it so cheap. So always look for out of season sales, just like you do with your clothing or anything else. Okay, so going out of business, secondary market, buy in bulk, buy out of season. Next, never underestimate the power of a thrift store. Vicki and I find the best stuff at thrift stores. I'm going to stand up for a minute to reach something. I bought all of this beautiful floss, which amounts to 18 balls of DNC number 8. I bought all of it for $2. Okay. And this is good for embroidery, and you can also use it for cross stitch. And quite honestly, I paid more for the jar than I paid for the thread. The thread was $2, and I bought the jar at Walmart for, I think, $8. It makes an adorable display. I'm a person who likes color, so this was a good deal all the way around. And if you go back and you look through my floss tube videos, I'll show you some of the deals that Vicki and I have found when we are out thrifting. Now, it's important when you bring it home to have a place to put it, or it will go into the land of abyss and you'll never find it again. So that's why I have totes for Ada. I have totes for linen. I have an enormous hat box for floss. And when I come home, I just put it up so that way then I'll have it at a later date. Ask your friends. Do you know anybody who used to cross stitch that doesn't stitch anymore? And chances are they will tell you. I belong to our local quilt guild, and a lot of the ladies are in their 80s, and they usually have friends that did something, okay, who no longer, or maybe they have friends that sadly have passed away or have had to go to nursing homes, and they can tell you where the deals are at. Okay, so point number 1, look for going out of business. Number 2, buy on the secondary market like eBay and Etsy. I have come into massive pattern sales recently, and I type in primitive cross-stitch pattern lot, LOT, which indicates that you're going to get more than 2. And so that has been helpful. Buy in bulk, like I did the linen and the thread. Buy out of season, like I did with the picture frames. Ask your friends, and then lastly, look for deep discounts. And let me show you this. Hobby Lobby at one time, they always have a clearance aisle. They were no longer going to carry this 25 count, 20 by 27 inch piece of linen. It was way back when, this is almost hilarious to think. It was $7.19 full price, and I got it for $4.79. So here lately, I have had to spend money buying linens because it's not something I had a lot of, but I did have Ada. But every now and then, you'll come into deals like this where they're just not going to carry this particular packaging, maybe the style, maybe the color, maybe the count, and then you can score and get a good deal on it. So now to tell you a little bit about me. I was married in the early 90s, and my husband was the manager of a movie theater. He made practically no money, and he was gone at night, and my daughter was asleep as a baby. So from 6 to midnight before he got home, I had all those hours of nothing to do. And I have a lot of nervous energy. I'm the type of person who always wants to be doing something, or at least I have to keep my hands busy. If my hands are busy, my mind is at ease. That's how I operate. So I begged him, I've got to have a hobby. Please let me do something. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, why don't we buy some materials and let me do a flower arrangement? Well, if you know anything about silk flowers, they were expensive then and they're expensive now. So I made one flower arrangement, and it cost me, I think, $35, which back then was a lot of money to make. And he said, you are done. No more flower arranging. And so then our marriage kind of fell apart, and I needed a hobby, and so I picked up cross stitch. I did not know how to do it. I knew how to do the stamped because I had an aunt who showed me how to do that when I was 13. So I went back to that same aunt, who, thank God, she's still alive with me today, and she taught me how to do counted cross stitch, which is how this all started. And so little by little, I started amassing patterns, fabrics, needles, and I did it for about, I don't know, probably 20 years, 25 years. And then I took a break, and now I'm back at it again. I have to have a hobby. I'm not happy if I'm not creating. So I feel like everyone deserves an opportunity to create, but you do have to be smart about it because it can get way out of hand economically, and also it can take over your space. But I just wanted to share a few tips with you today. So after he and I divorced, I was 24 years. I've been divorced since I was 24 years old. And at that time, his grandmother helped secure a sewing machine for me, and I started quilting. I taught myself to quilt by checking out books from the books and magazines from the library. And I would also call his grandmother if I got in a bind, and she would tell me over the phone how to finish a project. So once I switched over to a sewing machine, the handwork kind of fell by the wayside, but I'm happy to have picked it back up again and be back full force. I hope you've learned something from my video. Please like and subscribe and give me a thumbs up. I will have more for you soon. Thank you.